It looks like we're live. Hello, 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 good people. It's me, Reverend Tammy Denise, 16-year breast cancer survivor and co-founder of Carrie's Touch. Also, the co-PI for Project SOAR. We are here tonight with a special guest. Her name, a special guest who's also a very, very dear friend of mine, as well as a colleague. We're going to talk to her in just a second, but I just wanted to stop in and say, hey, how y'all doing? Who's out there? Who's joining us tonight? Let us know who you are, where you're from. Of course, let us know whether or not you're a cancer survivor. Let's see, what else do we want to know before we bring her in? Touching base, see how y'all are feeling about the country waking up again and opening up spaces to get again. I bumped into a woman today at a location and she didn't have a mask on and I had my mask on and she said, oh, I forgot my mask. And she went to go cover her mouth, but she moved in closely. She was going to tell me something. And I was like, lady, I need you 6 feet back. Don't come whisper something to me without a mask. So, we're talking about COVID again tonight. I'm not going to give it away just yet. I will introduce to you all my dear, dear, dear friend, bringing her in to this space with us tonight, Miss Liz Helms. Liz, come check us out.
Hi, Reverend Tammy. How are you?
I'm wonderful. How are you?
I'm great. I'm just super excited to be here with you.
Oh, I am so excited that you are here with us. I just want you to relax, have a good time. We just talk. It's just me and you. Forget those people out there in Facebook. No, I'm teasing. But a lot of what people don't know about you, I should say about the two of us, is that we have been friends for a very, very long time. I don't even remember how long we've been friends. I would say at least 10 years.
I was just going to say that. Yeah.
Yeah, at least 10 years working in the community together. You are an inspiration and a role model for me in how to do the work that we do out there. So I don't like reading bios. I know we ask for bios and pictures and all that stuff, but it just feels so impersonal when someone's as close to me as you are to read a bio. What I'd rather you do is tell us what you want us to know about you. Who is Liz Helms?
Okay, well, pretty complex, but very simple at the same time. I'm a patient advocate. I did not know I was going to be a patient advocate. I think a lot of us that go into advocacy are kind of picked up and placed there for whatever reason of something that might happen in our lifetime. And for me, I had a denial to access to care back in the early 90s. And it wasn't very good. And I didn't know if it even mattered that I would have a voice. And people that I met along the way in my journey that worked in health policy and in politics kind of shepherded me in. So I learned how to maneuver. And I also had to channel my anger. I was so angry because I was devastated by an illness and needed a surgical procedure. And I had to take that anger and then look at our system and see where we could possibly make change. Mm-hmm. Over 25 years ago.
What?
And, yeah.
Pause. 25 years ago, Liz?
Can you believe it?
I cannot believe that it's been 25 years. One of the things that we do here on I'm Not Your Superwoman is we just peel back the layers of the onion and we get raw and we get real in this space. And one of the things that, as you know, is that we bring information to our audience who is predominantly Black. So, I know everybody's going to be surprised that I'm Black and you're white. So let's just get that out there so everybody knows.
And I'm very, very light. Very, very light.
No, but I say that I say that specifically because you talk about the healthcare system, which we know is very, very problematic in communities of color. But tell us your story, Liz. What happened to you?
Well, I was having some problems with my neck, and I went in to see a chiropractor that I hadn't gone to in the past, and I have TMJ. And when he did the adjustment, it was nothing. I have nothing against chiropractors. Okay, I want to put that disclaimer in right now. You know, I just happened to get one that didn't work well for me, and he tore my jaw point apart. And then my health plan kept saying, no, this isn't medically necessary. But what actually happened is it froze together on the right side, and then it beat up the left side until it destroyed that, and until I just couldn't work anymore. I tried to work as long as I could, and it was devastating. And finally, my doctor and my surgeon, who was my saint, said, I'm not going to allow a third-party carrier to tell me how I can and cannot treat my patients. And so he took the risk, and he did the surgery. I was back to work in 6 weeks.
Wow.
6.5 months.
Wow.
And lots of pain meds. Lots of pain meds. But I came off of those, okay, because I had a doctor that actually worked with me in enabling me to do that. And so that was a big learning experience. Compared to where you fast forward now to today and the problems that we have with people getting medicines to treat their pain. And so I realized that what I was doing at that period of time wasn't going to work for me. The more I got involved in health policy and advocacy, the more I loved it. And I thought, I've got to just, this is me, you know, I've just got to get in here and go to work. And so I stopped doing what I was doing. And I have to tell you, for everybody that's out there, you know, I was a hairdresser. Yeah. So I had, you know, the touch. I had the Carrie's touch. And I had the touch. Because you're talking with people every day and you learn to be a good listener.
Right.
And I think that really helped me because I came in from the grassroots. And the other thing is I had a story to tell.
Right.
And no one could take that away from me. So that propelled me into being able to really advocate. And so as I became a little more well-known in the work I was doing, because I went right in and worked on policy. First bill I ever worked on was on TMJ, and we won that. So that was the first jaw joint, so you couldn't discriminate against any kind of surgical procedure. There's still a lot to do there, but we made a lot of headway. And then the first coalition I was involved in was Citizens for the Right to Know. Because you couldn't even find out, if you remember, you couldn't even find out what your health plan covered unless you signed up.
Right. So Liz, you actually became an advocate for yourself first. It's not like this advocacy work fell in your lap out of a labor of love and passion and things like that for others. It began with you.
Yeah.
That's similar to my story. People know that, you know, I became a patient advocate after my diagnosis with breast cancer. And, you know, I sound like a broken record when I say it, but it's when my oncologist offered me an opportunity to participate in the clinical trial. And I asked him specifically, how are Black women responding to this trial? And he said, I don't know. And I was like, unacceptable. How on earth do you present me with a treatment option and you don't know how it affects people like me? And so I knew that if I was to live, if I was going to survive breast cancer, I had to become my own advocate for myself. first.
Yep.
And so that is very similar to what happened to you. And, for you, it's been 25 years. For me, it's been 16 and a half years, moving into 17 years. And I know my life has changed significantly. How has your life changed since becoming an advocate?
Oh my gosh. I have learned so much, but I think, I love people.
Mm-hmm.
And I have met so many, like you, amazing people on this journey.
Mm-hmm.
And I call it a journey. It's not like this isn't a job. This
Right.
is a journey.
Right.
And when you listen to people and their stories of what's happened to them,
Mm-hmm.
you learn, okay, this is where we need to make change.
Yeah.
This is where all of this, it takes place at the grassroots.
Yeah, it does.
And lots of times policymakers don't understand until they actually have a family member that's got a problem.
Exactly.
And that's pretty much how we started advocating at the state capitol of California, was finding those policymakers that actually had things happen in their life in the healthcare world.
Well, Liz, that is so profound because, what I will say is my experience with a lot of grassroots effort, a lot of grassroots organization, predominantly in the Black community or communities of color, people are so concerned with just providing the community the basics, awareness, education, access to care, support, right? Emotional support. We provide so much emotional support to women. Some men, yes, I'm rocking my male breast cancer earrings today. I got to give a shout out to my girl, Ebony London, who is a local artist, and she makes breast cancer earrings specifically for Carrie's Touch and me every year. And today I'm rocking our male breast cancer earrings. But nonetheless, but even, for males, the emotional support that we provide, we don't even think about crossing the street and moving into policy. But policy is where the magic happens, right? We do all of this work, but lateraling into policy is what really, really makes the difference. So let's talk a little bit about that shift for you. Here you are, you're a patient, you've got this situation with lack of access to care because of your health coverage, discriminating on the type of illness that you had and the surgery that you needed. And then you said that you move into the people around you, just were at the Capitol, dealing with legislation, dealing with policy. But now across the nation, Liz Helms is a household name when it comes to patient advocacy groups and policy change.
Wow. Well, thank you. I don't know if I live up to that.
You do. Trust me. I drop your name all the time. Liz Helms. Yes.
Well, the two of us did have a trip to DC, right, girlfriend?
Oh,
and that was a memory-making trip. We actually lots of memories. But in working, especially working in with the Black population and underserved areas, which I've had a lot of experience. I did that in San Diego when we were working on a hypertension control and lowering the risk of heart disease and stroke. And there was one huge community that, like you said, food deserts, gang violence, one grocery store to serve 48,000 people. That generally grocery stores, I understand, are built to serve 12,000 people. So you can imagine the impact there. And then all the fast foods and no pharmacies and, just
Yeah.
And so how do you take that on? And then you couldn't get the two different groups, the Latino and the Black communities, even to talk to each other. And we saw a transformation. And I think what happened, what was so compelling for me, is we went in there and we first started working with faith-based leaders, and we were there to listen.
Mm-hmm.
We weren't there to say, trust me, I'm going to help you. Where's that trust? How do you build that trust?
Yeah.
What is going on in your community? Where's all the disconnects in your community?
Mm-hmm.
And we saw, by the time I left, a change. And I remember one of the ministers had diabetes, and he didn't know he had diabetes. And he sat there to the group and he said, I didn't know what it felt like. I always thought I was fine. I didn't know that I was sick until I got well.
Mm-hmm.
And that I never forgot that, because that was so compelling. And the other thing was the great Dr. Rodney Hood, who is still in Southeast San Diego, said place and race matter. It's what happens. And that is really heavy, isn't it?
Liz, that is so heavy. And you and I have been in many rooms together where I was either the only Black person or one of two Black people in that room. And you are one of few people that understands when I say that you can't go into diverse communities riding in on your great white horse as if you're the savior, Right. You got to go in with a heart and a desire to even learn what the needs are without being condescending, without acting like you know what you don't know. And I think that's part of why your efforts in San Diego were so successful, because you went in there saying, hey, here are the questions. And what we want to know is, how do we help you get what you need? And how do we help you lower these numbers so that we can start saving some lives around here? You tell us.
Yeah.
And that's how you build trust. That's what we did at Carrie's Touch when we went to build our program in Ghana. Yes, I'm a Black woman. Yes, those women are Black, but I'm not Ghanaian. I had never lived in Africa, and I didn't never understand what it truly meant to be African from a firsthand experience. So I had to go in, Carrie's Touch, we had to go in and start with listening.
Yeah.
Just listening. And I didn't go and insert a peer navigator program into Ghana's environment. I adapted a program that was going to be helpful to those women, to be able to educate and encourage them to fight for their lives against a culture and against the system that otherwise was just giving them astronomical numbers of women dying from a disease that they didn't have to.
Right.
So
how empowering.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely empowering. So, thank you for the work that you've done in San Diego and you continue to do in diverse communities. I appreciate platforms that you and the California Chronic Care Coalition provide to address difficult topics. I see you in the rooms, ask complex questions, So I began my intro today talking about a woman coming into an establishment without a mask, and then proceeding to have a close contact conversation with me without a mask. I'm not a doctor, you're not a doctor, but we are both patient advocates. And what we strive to do is to provide information, resources, and access to the community so that we can make informed decisions about our health care.
Absolutely.
And these decisions, as we've already established, quite often are based on our personal experiences. You shared an experience with me a few days ago about a family member and COVID-19.
Yes.
You know, I got your permission in advance to ask you specifically, so I don't want folks to think I'm putting you on the spot. But I got your permission to ask you to share a little bit about that entire situation.
Yeah. So, as we all know, COVID has been life-changing. We've been living in a pandemic for over a year.
Yeah.
And we're actually starting to see the light. Starting to see the light. I have a long way to go, but we're starting. And as an advocate, it's really difficult for me when I talk to all the other advocates. We understand the importance of getting vaccinated because it's our way out. It's our way getting back. And this whole last year, we've been on phone call after phone call and briefing after briefing about what's happening with the virus, what's happening with the vaccines, where are they in discovery, and then now we end up with the use of 3 different vaccines right now, and so I talked to my family, and some of them said, no, we're not going to get the vaccine. And I'm like, well, why? I mean, I have a lot of friends who have lost people to COVID, and I know what they've gone through. And none of them had been vaccinated. And so we get to where we're actually seeing the light and coming out of this. And I get a call maybe 3 weeks ago that my sister-in-law had been diagnosed with COVID. Now, my sister-in-law is high risk senior, and the people at high risk, the risk of getting COVID and dying from COVID is greater than the risk of getting a simple shot in your arm. And when I found out that she had it, they live up Northern California. Her husband, she's 69, her husband's 85. So he gets vaccinated and he says, Liz, I'm vaccinated. I tried to get her to get a vaccination. She wouldn't do it because she thought, oh, well, I'm strong. She wasn't strong. She had underlying medical conditions. And I mean, diabetes, hypertension, pain, just lots of different things, and being a senior and being, overweight. I mean, those are the worst signs of things that could happen to you that could be bad. And so so then within a few days, she couldn't get out of bed, and they had to call an ambulance, and they took her to the hospital. And from that point, I asked the family, I actually asked my sister-in-law if she would want me to be the point person, because I probably knew more about the virus and what it does that could explain it to the family. It's a tough position to get into because, you're trying to explain this to so many people, and then have them feel like you halfway know what you're talking about, right? So I took it on, and before I knew it, I was talking to her husband, I was talking to the daughter, I was talking to the son, our nephew, and a lot of other people. And I'm sitting out every night. I'm sitting out because now I'm talking to the nurses in the hospital. And I have to tell you, that was very stressful. Very stressful.
Yeah, I'm sure.
And then I was talking to my sister-in-law and asking her what what was going on. And she kept saying, I'm going to beat this. I'm going to beat this. Well, her numbers just got worse.
Oh,
got worse. And then the doctor called me on a Saturday. So now she's a week in the hospital. And the doctor says, oh, she's holding her own, but this is what we're looking at. And then she told me she hasn't hit the cusp. She hasn't gotten to that point where you would start to get better. So she was still going to continue to get worse. And so now we're going into week 2. And I'm looking at her respiration numbers, what her oxygen levels are. And then on Tuesday of last week, I got her CRP, which is creatinine protein.
mm-hmm.
And that marks the inflammation in your body.
Mm-hmm.
And 1 to 5 is pretty normal. She was at 170.
Oh, Lynn.
So I knew, and it just so happened we were filming one of our doctors, because as you know, as you're going to be a part of this, we're going to launch a new website on COVID for consumers. And so I gave him the numbers. I said, here's her respiration, here's her oxygen level, and he just shook his head and he says, well, she can hang in there and she can come through it, or she may just plateau and then drop. And she plateaued and she dropped, and her numbers got worse. And I had to send a note out to the family saying, they're saying that she's fairly stable, but I don't believe it. And my gut tells me she's not going to do well. And here's the reasons why.
Yeah.
And then on that Saturday, just last Saturday, a few days ago, she passed away. Oh. And it was, everybody in the family was shocked, but I wasn't shocked because I knew what was happening. But the thing that's so sad, her husband's 85 and got the vaccine. Yeah. And even though he tested positive because of her, he didn't have any symptoms. Wow. He's already out of quarantine. He's going to live. Wow. She refused to get it and she died.
Oh, Liz.
And I don't know how I can better help people. I'd like to find where's that point where we really help the public understand COVID is not hesitant in taking your life. Yeah. Or a life of someone you love. It is not hesitant. We're the hesitant ones.
Wow, Liz, whoa. So, you gave more detail tonight than you did, when we first began sharing about this story. And so first and foremost, my condolences to you and the loss of a family member.
Thank you.
And you were so close and so intimate. I have personally lost several family members, as well as several close friends, as well as several church members and so on. And COVID is no respecter of persons. And, on this show, we don't try to make people think what we think. We give them information, encourage them to go do their own research and make a decision that is going to work for them. As we know, there's never been anything out there where it's 100% on one way. There's a lot of folks in the Black community that say things like, you are the research. Well, yeah, we understand that we are part of the research with this, as we are learning more about this disease. But in the research, we are finding that, like your brother, people who have been vaccinated are able to survive COVID, whereas had they not been vaccinated, in many cases, they wouldn't survive.
Yeah, no doubt we would have lost both of them.
Yeah. And I'm fully vaccinated, but I'm fully vaccinated because I've got underlying health issues. I'm overweight. I'm a cancer patient. I'm a severe asthmatic. So there's a lot of elements that lead me to say, hey, you know what? Getting the shot in my arm and some of the discomforts that I had, as a result of side effects from the shot, if they're going to give me a chance at surviving a disease that we know has killed almost 600,000 Americans in a year.
Yes.
That's what we are here to do. And your story is so critical to share with people, to say, hey, 2 family members got COVID. One was vaccinated, one was not vaccinated. And only one of them lived, and it's the one who was vaccinated. So when we talk about this education around folks getting vaccinated, the vaccine in and of itself is very, very complex, because you meet the community at large at various places. In some regard, ethnicity and culture matter, and in other regards it doesn't, because COVID doesn't know if you're Black or white.
That's right.
It doesn't care.
Right.
But the vaccine in and of itself is very complicated. And you and I have had some very intimate heart-to-heart conversations around these complexities. What do we do with, and again, Liz and Nora are physicians. We're not immunologists. We are patient advocates. And this is our way of advocating on behalf of patients in this. You are putting together a website that is trying to get out information about this vaccine, a trusted, as a trusted source to be able to get out information about this vaccine. But one of the complexities is that almost daily information is changing. What do we do? How do we build trust when we have perpetually changing information?
Yeah, and Reverend Tammy, kudos to you for our conversation yesterday, because I went back to the website today and I'm putting on, information changes constantly and a timestamp. So we will update, so you'll know when we updated it. But we thought we'd have this up and running 2 months ago.
Yeah.
And because the information has changed, and in fact, the whole focus now, because then it was just about COVID. What is it? What do we do? Who do we see? How do we get tested? Where do we go to get a vaccine? Now it's so many people have gotten the vaccine. It's those that are fearful or hesitant of doing it now. How that's our focus, and maybe for whatever reason, there was some intervention that what happened to my sister was a testament for me to have the information that I needed to be able to talk about it in a different way.
Yeah.
And it was a wake-up call for our family. We have the 50 years old. I'm in my 70s. And so we have the 50-year-olds that I'm strong, I'm tough, I don't need it, it's just the flu. It's not the flu. It is not the flu.
Yeah.
And I think that was a mistake. There was so much misinformation about what this was when it got started.
Right.
It's 20 times more deadlier than any flu we had, except 100 years ago when we had the Spanish flu. And that information came out, oh, it's just the flu, or you may have a really light case. You don't know, because I have people that I know of all ages, from young runners, people that don't have an ounce of fat on their body, end up in the ICU. And so I learned from all of that. And then let's say you have a case and you get over it. You don't know what it's done inside your body that you may have, which we're calling the long haulers. We don't know what it's done until after it's done.
Right.
Just get rid of it. Don't let it happen to you. Don't let that invade you. And so I think I'm even more passionate now than I was a couple of months ago when we were working on it. And we got on this issue early on because I've done so much work with the Coalition of Hypertension
Mm-hmm.
in underserved communities, especially in the Black community,
Mm-hmm.
and diabetes. And all of a sudden, that's what we're hearing. It's really going after people that have hypertension and diabetes and are overweight. Well, I have those co-occurring chronic conditions too.
Mm-hmm.
And so for me, yes, I was fearful about getting the vaccine. I got it. And I
Yeah.
have to tell you, there was no, I thought when I look back at it now, I said, God, what a jerk you were, Liz, because you had no reaction. I had no reaction. I had a reaction to the swine flu back in the 70s. So I'm thinking, oh, this is going to happen all over. And it wasn't an allergic reaction. It just changed my system to where I built up the antibodies and then it lowered it for other things. This is a whole different story. This vaccine is mRNA. It is a whole different story. And my husband got chills and felt feverish for about 24 hours. And I had a sore arm, maybe felt a little off for a day, and that was it.
Yeah.
Back to normal.
Right. Then you have people like me that had, I'm not going to tell on this live just for sake of not scaring folks. But what I'll tell you is that I had a lot more symptoms than that. And I was under the weather a lot longer than that. But what I knew and what I could believe based on science is that at some point it was going to balance itself out and I was going to overcome it. You know, we're going to have the naysayers that say, oh, okay, well, what about the people that are having some severe adverse responses to, you know, these vaccines? And what about, you know, the number of cases of people that we've lost? You know, for me, I go back to where we began this conversation and saying that nothing is 100%. And yes, we are a part of probably the largest sample that they're going to ever have in any clinical trial. And with that comes loss, but the losses that are recorded according to the vaccine versus the losses of folks that have actually contracted COVID-19, it's not even a comparison. You know, you cannot compare the two. So who do we trust? You know, the CDC is now saying to us, okay, if you're fully vaccinated, you can rip off those masks outside. Then a couple days later, hey, if you're fully vaccinated, you can rip off those masks. We're getting ready to open up the country, and we're ready to get back to life as usual. But if you understand the vaccine doesn't prevent you from getting COVID. It helps your body build up antibodies so that you are better equipped to fight COVID should you get it.
Yeah. And, you know, so talk about trust. So the people I trust are the people working on the front line that see it, that treat it, that know it, that have to deal with the families. And so we have been working with UC Davis Health. Dr. Balmer's our medical advisor. He's a cardiologist and internal medicine specialist. He doesn't leave anything, any rocks unturned, any stones unturned. He just sent me a note and said, you know, he sent me his new slide deck. He was with us when we did the CDC briefing, you know, for people with chronic disease. And I trust him and value him. He was part of the clinical trials. And when he tells me, I think about it. I really think about it. And you know, one of the things he explained, and we're going to have this up on our website fairly soon. It's not there yet. What does the vaccine actually do, and what does COVID actually do? And that is powerful because COVID, are you seeing these, you know, all these different color giant pictures of it? It's you can't see it by your eye. And if it gets into your body, it has a toxin in it, and that toxin disarms the the immune system, the defense system in the body. And that's why your body sometimes doesn't know it was invaded.
Right.
And then it starts to replicate itself. So it makes copies of itself over and over and over and over and over again. And nothing's stopping it because you already have been disarmed from having it.
Right.
So this is, and I'm not a scientist and I'm not a doctor, but this is how it was explained to me. So I'm just trying to give it to you, in the best way I can. What the vaccine does now, so they took a piece of that spike, which is the mRNA, will not change your DNA, will not change your cell structure. But what it does do now, it recognizes the virus if it enters.
Right.
And it encapsulates it and gets rid of it.
And gets rid of it, yeah.
And so that's why you're seeing very high survival rates. Now, he also said to me that, we're looking at, the two mRNAs are at like 95% effective. But he also said, if you test positive for COVID and you have COVID and you've had the vaccine, there's 100% chance you're not going to die from it.
Wow.
So I have that on film. That will come up. And
wait, Liz. I just said that nothing's 100%. So you're telling me that Dr. Balmer is saying that there's 100% chance that you won't die from COVID-19 if you've been vaccinated? Wow. So
I have it on tape, so we're going to use it.
Well, so for me, again, you and I, and on this show, we talk real talk. Okay, so if those of us that say we took the vaccine because we're trusting science, where's the science that supports that claim that if you've had the vaccine, that there's 100% that shows 100% that you will not die from COVID?
Well, hopefully that's all being captured in the data that they're, because when someone enters or tests positive, they want to know.
Yeah.
They want to know what's happening. They're following. Their doctors are following and reporting. Yeah. And you know what? I'm going to find out now with my brother-in-law surviving with that information, what that hospital or what that community or the health worker that's there, what they do with that information. I will find it. I can get straight from the horse's mouth now. But like I said, I really trust Dr. Balmer and his experience of what he's seen. And that was pretty exciting to hear because it wowed me.
It wowed me when you just said that. And I am inclined to want to believe it, but I'll be honest. I don't know that Tammy Denise, Liz Helms that this is your experience. You're working closely with him, and you've built that relationship with him that you can trust that. I would say I still need to see more evidence that would support a claim that says that there's 100% proof that those that have been vaccinated have not died from COVID. And, it's early. And so that still may be the claim right now, and it's early. But what I can say that we do have evidence of, just by those of us who are walking, living, moving, breathing every single day, that we have had a larger number of people that have had the vaccine and that have survived. I can't say that I know for a fact that that's 100%, but I know it's a high percentage.
And if there's anybody watching this right now that has had an experience different than that, I would really be interested in that information too.
Yeah, you mean someone, so it would have to be obviously a loved one of someone that they know was vaccinated, and then that person died after having been vaccinated, contracted COVID-19, and then died.
Yeah, and that would be after they're fully vaccinated, because in the time that you're building, other things might be happening there. This is after you're fully vaccinated. That period of time has passed, and then something may happen.
And so, Liz, just for clarity's sake, let's define what fully vaccinated, because we wear that fully vaccinated like a badge of honor. Not I'm vaccinated, I'm fully vaccinated. So what's the difference between being fully vaccinated and being vaccinated?
So they say it's after 2 weeks after the second shot.
2 weeks after the second shot. And then for those with the Johnson & Johnson, the one and done,
that's a one and done. 2 weeks.
2 weeks after that. Yeah. So if you're fully vaccinated after 2 weeks after. So Liz, you're not going to believe this, but we have come almost to our hour time.
Wow.
I know. First and foremost, thank you for being here, and thank you for sharing your story. Help me share with the people, what are next steps? What do advocates, what do persons like, because I am specific to cancer, but what I know is seeing folks with COVID and cancer, it puts them in a very peculiar space, the same way it probably does with other disease states, right? They're already battling one life-threatening illness, and then COVID comes into it, and it just creates a disaster for that patient. And so we've had patients that have had to battle COVID and cancer simultaneously. Some of them survived, some of them didn't. Right. So what do advocates, what can we do to help the community understand the importance of, at minimum, get educated, go get your information and go make an informed decision. So what can we do?
Yeah, you've got to look at reputable. I don't listen to the news, because the information on the news is, they've politicized this so much. And like I said, I still go back and talk to people that have had COVID. Public health. Now, they put us on alert months ago and said, we just want you to get prepared. We're going to have a new division of COVID, chronic disease. So you could be looking at more comorbidities of chronic conditions with COVID and something else, or like I said, the long haulers, where there's been things that have happened that have bothered your internal organs, and we don't know how long it'll take to recover from that, or if there are things that are long lasting. We still have a lot to learn from that coming out on the other side. And so I want to really drill down to ensure that the information we're giving out is as correct as I can receive it.
Oh, that's beautiful. That's beautiful. Now, Liz, and I don't just say this because you're my friend, because I don't just say I don't agree with everything. But I think that is critical. I think that language is critical, to say that you are disseminating information as accurately as you are able to receive it.
That's it.
And that's trustworthy, So for folks that may not have access to Liz and My Patient Rights and Chronic Care Coalition, obviously for many folks that are here listening to this, have some connection to Carrie's Touch. What would be if we strip away everything that you've just said over the last 50 plus minutes, what is the thing you want people to know?
Ask the questions. Don't be afraid to ask the questions. And your voice matters. It matters. And when one voice, my motto is, many voices come together when one voice stands up. You're not alone out there. Reach out. If you have questions, reach out. Reach out to Reverend Tammy. And reach out. You can reach me. My Patient Rights. And share your story if you have one. Because people that have a story to share, believe me, other people are going through that same thing, and that helps them a lot. You will help a lot of people.
Mm.
We have to get through the fear.
Yeah.
And get our lives back.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know, a lot has changed. And feel good about going out again.
Yeah.
And we're struggling right now with mask on, mask off. You know?
Right.
So
Yeah. I mean, I wish it were that simple, because, you know, I want to feel good about going out again. I'm ready to go out again. But Liz, I am petrified to get on an airplane now that they've taken away the no middle seat. I don't know that I could ever sit on an airplane again. And I don't want to go into this whole big old spiel at this point in the conversation. But I swear, in January of 2020, I had some variant of a COVID-19. I believe it. And I believe I caught it on an airplane from New York back to California, because I had what I thought was the flu, to the point that I honestly felt like I was going to die. It wasn't until I actually had to go in and get a breathing treatment, several breathing treatments, to even open my lungs up, because I just knew.
No, I believe it. I believe it. I hear that a lot. You know, that even happened, the same kind of similar situation that happened to me in December of 2019. Yeah. And my doctor didn't know what it was.
Yeah.
I think a lot of people had it and didn't know they had it, because they weren't talking about it early on.
Yeah.
So we know a whole lot more now.
Yes.
And we're going to continue to learn and know a whole lot more a month from now, you know, 2 months from now, when fall comes, you know. So, but ask questions. Don't ever be afraid that you're asking a stupid question. You know, I used to say, I have a stupid question. There's no such thing. Every question has a reason for being asked. So ask your questions, and, you know, and find the people that you trust that can give you what you think, that work in the field. If they don't, we'll connect you. We'll ask the doctor. I can ask the doctor. Because getting correct information rather than misinformation is going to be life-changing for you. And that's, I think, one of the things, and sharing your story is huge.
Yeah. We do both understand and value the importance of the patient's voice as they share their stories. And I love you encouraging people to ask the question. And my 9th grade English teacher said that the only stupid question is the question you don't ask.
That's right.
That's the only thing.
That's right. That's good.
You know, that's the only time that there's a stupid question. And it's almost like the Google search engine. You're looking for something, you know what it is, but you know you're not asking the right question yet to get you the answer that you really need. If you are not getting the answer that you need, keep asking questions until you get to the right question. And some will get the vaccine, some won't get the vaccine, but this is the commitment that I would challenge and charge the community, that we all do everything that we can to keep ourselves, our loved ones, and, you know, the community at large safe. So if you don't want to get the vaccine, continue to wear your mask, continue to social distance, continue to wash your hands, continue to keep your bubble tight. And do those things that we need to do until we can get to herd immunity. And that's a whole nother conversation.
We'll come back and talk about that. Huh?
Yeah. You know, that's a whole nother conversation. So Liz, I like, you know, after we have these big old heavy conversations, I like to end on a light note. I like to humanize the experts and bring them back into human space. So if I'm asking you a question about ice cream, what's your favorite flavor?
Pistachio.
Ah! I love you. I love you. You are so out of the box. It just, it makes my heart sing. Okay. And final question. What is your guilty pleasure?
Riding a horse.
Wow. I don't know that I have. Well, that's a good guilt. That's not a guilty pleasure, Liz. Guilty pleasures are like eating a whole pint of ice cream while riding a horse.
Well, I feel guilty when I'm not working. So I take time off, you see.
Well, see, that's a whole other conversation around self-care. So don't even get us going on. Liz, this time has gone so fast. You know, when we have such rich and robust conversations, I often put my guest on the spot right here and say, hey, will you come back?
You bet.
Oh, thank you so very much, Liz. You have been great. It's been great chatting with you. It's been great learning from you. And more importantly, it's been great expanding the education and the awareness of the community with you. So with that, good people, this has been another episode of I'm Not Your Superwoman. We give a special thanks to our guest, Miss Liz Helms, the Executive Director of Chronic Care Coalition, My Patient Rights, and an advocate for people, for herself, and for her family. See you soon. Take care. Bye.